All right, we're going to finish up our order of operations notes or our GEMA notes today. And our last section we're going to focus on is going to be our our groupings section. And so today we're going to have different groupings to solve with. So that's our section we're going to focus on today. We're adding that piece, that last piece to our GEMA puzzle. All right, so scroll where it says groupings. All right, so reminders, when we have groupings, we find parentheses or we find brackets, and we have to have an operation inside to solve. So we look inside that bracket and we say, is there an actual operation to solve? And so if you look here at example 4, the first thing I see is I see some parentheses and I specifically see, oh, look, there's something to solve inside those parentheses. If you look here at example 5, we have parentheses, and inside those parentheses is something to solve. So both of these parentheses represent groupings. And again, we need our GEMA tower because I have lots of operations in one problem. So anytime you have lots of operations in one problem, we need our GEMA tower. So again, GEMA. We might need integer man for our multiplicative, and we might need positive negative table for our additive. All right, so we're going to work our way down the table looking for groupings first, So always starting at the top of our tower. Well, we already said this parentheses right here represents a grouping because there's something in it to solve. But it also represents multiplication because when I look at this parentheses, what's in front of it? A number. So I'm going to rewrite this problem with multiplication, then my parentheses, just so that I don't forget that outside number is being multiplied by my parentheses. So again, I just rewrote it because right here, the 2 next to the parentheses represents multiplication. So that's all I did is I rewrote it. And now I'm going to start solving. So I'm going to go and I'm going to find my first grouping, which is here. I'm going to box it and solve it. So what is 6 plus 8? Well, they're both positive numbers, so that's just going to be 14. And then I cross it off and rewrite everything outside of my box. And I'm all done with my groupings. All right, then I move on down my tower and I say, ooh, exponents. Do I have any exponents in this particular problem? I don't have any exponents in my problem. So I'm going to go ahead and mark off exponents. And now I'm moving on to multiplicative. So I'm looking for multiplying and dividing relationships in my multiplicative section. And remember, I just move left to right. So is this a multiplicative relationship? Yes, it is. So I'm going to box it, solve it, and bring it down. Notice that I only ever solve 2 numbers at a time. I never do more than one step at a time. I always solve 2 numbers at a time to bring it down. So 2 times 14, they're both just regular old positive numbers. 2 times 14 is going to end up being 28, and I cross it off. And I rewrite everything outside of my box. I'm still looking for multiplicative relationships, so I'm still moving left to right. I ask myself, is this multiplicative? No. But is this multiplicative? Yes. So I box my next problem. I say, oh, that's a positive 5 and a positive 32, so that's just regular old multiplication. If you don't know it in your head, you could come over to the side and multiply it and see that the answer is 160. I solve for 160 and cross it off. And then I rewrite everything outside of my box. I look and I see I don't have any more multiplicative relationships, so I'm going to mark off my multiplicative section. And I am now at the bottom level of my tower, my additive. Remember, additive represents adding and subtracting, additive, adding and subtracting relationships. And I can clearly see right here at the bottom, I have this subtracting relationship. But I have to ask myself, if I have $28, can I spend $160? Well, the answer would be no. And so because of that, I know I'm going to need my integer table. So I'm going to circle. So 160 is negative, and I'm going to circle, and 28 is positive. And so if I think about it, who is going to win? Who has more power? Well, team negative definitely has more power. So my answer is going to be negative. And then because they're on different teams, we subtract. So I can't take 8 from nothing, so I need to borrow. 10 minus 8 is 2, 5 minus 2 is 3, and bring down my 1. So my answer is negative 132. And that is our last step, so we can mark out the last piece of our tower. And that is groupings. Let's try one more. All right, example number 5. We have 4 parentheses, 8 minus 10 parentheses, an exponent. We have adding 7 and adding a negative. So lots of different operations in this problem. I'm going to need my GEMA tower. GEMA, G-E-M-A. And I'm going to draw my integer man for multiplicative and my integer table for additive, just to remind me I might need them. And then I'm going to start solving left to right, looking for any groupings first. So I go through and I say, yes, this parentheses here has something to solve. So this is a grouping. But this parentheses here doesn't have anything to solve in it. So because there's nothing to solve inside, I can get rid of these parentheses. I look in front of the parentheses and see what's in front, a plus sign. So all this parentheses is doing is telling me that this number is negative. But this parentheses up here has a number in front, which we know means multiply. So when I rewrite my problem, I'm going to rewrite that with a multiplication symbol so that I don't forget that that multiplication has to be there. And remember, when I rewrite my 3, I'm just going to drop the parentheses because it's just a negative. Now I can move through and box my grouping. So I have 8 minus 10. Well, can I take 10 from 8? No. So I need a positive negative table. I'm going to circle negative 10 and positive 8. And I can see that team negative is going to win. And we subtract because they're on different teams. They're competing. And we have a negative 2 as my solution. So I mark that out. And then I'm going to rewrite everything outside of my parentheses. So I have 4 times in front. I have the exponent of 2, right? I have the plus 7 and the plus negative 3. And now I'm ready to mark out my groupings because I've solved all of them and move on to my exponent. So I'm going to box my exponent and I'm going to solve. So negative 2 squared. Remember, anytime we have an exponent, we're going to write it underneath. So we're going to say negative 2 times negative 2. And we know we're going to need integer man for that problem. So over here on this side, I'm going to draw him. Negative 2 times negative 2 is going to be positive 4. So I can cross that out and rewrite my problem. So what's outside my box? Well, I have 4 times plus 7 plus negative 3. And I am still looking to make sure, do I have any more exponents? No. All right, I've moved on to my multiplicative section. So I'm looking for multiplying and dividing relationships. I can clearly see I have some multiplying right at the beginning. So as I move left to right, that's my first job. So I'm going to box it, and I'm going to say, what is 4 times 4? Well, 4 times 4 is 16. They were both positive, so I can mark that out. And rewrite everything after my box. And then I'm still looking for a multiplicative relationship, so I move left to right here. Is this multiplicative? No. Is this multiplicative? No. So I'm all done with my multiplicative section, and I can move on to my additive section. So I look and I see, okay, everything left is an additive relationship. Okay, everything left is an additive relationship. So I'm going to move left to right. So I'm going to box 16 plus 7. 16 plus 7 is 23, and mark it off. And I rewrite everything outside the parentheses. I still have some additive relationship to go, so I'm going to box it. And I have a negative here, so I know I'm going to need to draw my positive negative table. I'm going to circle my numbers from the back of the 3 to the back of the 23, back of the 23 to the front. We can see good versus evil here. Who wins in good versus evil? Well, evil wins. So I'm going to draw a big old minus sign over that and write 3 on the negative side. 23, however, is positive, so it goes on the positive side. Then I ask myself, who has more power? Well, 23 has clearly got more power with the positive, and because they're on separate teams, we subtract. 23 minus 3 is 20, so my final answer is positive 20. And that is order of operations, guys. Don't get going too fast. Take your time. Use your GEMA tower. Use your integer man and your integer table. And remember, we move left to right through the problem looking for our GEMA tower pieces. Don't forget to mark them off as you go. And use your integer strategies when you need them. And yeah, 2 numbers at a time. Don't try to do more than that. You'll get confused. Go practice order of operations.